Okay, so on your quiz, you're going to have two different types of problems. And again, we'll go over this again tomorrow. We'll go over this again on Monday. But you're going to have two questions that says, tell me all this stuff. You're going to tell me which way the parabola opens. You're going to tell me the axis of symmetry, the maximum and minimum, the vertex, x and y intercepts. And then you're going to give me a little sketch, okay? Then the second two problems on everybody's quiz, a bunch of different versions. But the second two are going to say, tell me the end behaviors and factor, find all the zeros. So that's what this kind of stuff is going on. Excuse me. Some of them will work out nice and pretty, some of them won't. But we're going to go through these together so you guys understand what these questions are asking. So if I look at number 27, okay, you guys with me? 27? Yeah. Okay, so number 27. The first thing I want to do is I want you guys to tell me the end behavior. So it's x cubed minus x squared minus 6x. How do you tell me end behaviors? What did we learn yesterday? Where do we look? Which exponent? The biggest one, okay? Generally, it's the first one, guys, but if it's not written in standard form, it may not be first. So you have to make sure that make sure your polynomial is written in standard form, meaning the biggest exponent is first, then it goes down in descending order. So see how we go 3, 2, 1? What kind of a number is 3? It's odd. I would suggest that you guys do this on your quiz. Do this little bit of thinking so you can see. Odd. When I think of odd, I think of what? Opposite. That means the arrows on my graph are going to go in opposite directions. Good, Nunez. Now I give yourself a quick little picture. Think about a line. If a line is positive, which way does it go? Up. It goes like this, right? Yes? Okay, so think about that. It's not a line. It's going to be more of a snake, but it's the same kind of concept. What is happening on the left-hand side of the graph? Is it rising or is it falling? So you would tell me that the end behavior is falling left and doing what on the right? Rising right. Perfect. If you guys have questions as I go through this, just say, hey, can you please stop, slow down, repeat that, whatever you need, okay? Now, if I'm going to find the zeros, all that means is take your polynomial, set it equal to 0. You guys have done this 23,000 times. What do I do first? GCF. What do they all have in common? They all have an x. So if I take an x out, I'm left with x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Are there factors of negative 6 that multiply to give you negative 6 that add to give me negative 1? Yeah. What are they?
3 and 2.
X, what kind of 3? What kind of 2? Minus 3 plus 2 equals
0.
Perfect. Now what do I do with each little piece? Wonderful. So x equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. The only thing that's new about this concept, guys, is the directions where it says find the zeros. You guys have seen before it says factor. It means the same thing. Zeros are where the graph crosses what axis? What letter are we looking for? What letter are we looking at? X. It's where it crosses the x-axis. So my zeros are at x equals 0,
X equals 3.
x equals positive 3, and x equals? Negative 2. Perfect. Questions? I know all of you guys are checking your answer because you all did this and just forgot to turn it in. Okay, awesome. So let's go to 28. Can somebody read 28 to me, please? P of x equals? Okay. Hold on. Let's do end behaviors first. Odd. Odd. I think opposite. Is it positive odd or negative odd?
Positive.
Positive. So it goes like this. What's my end behavior?
Falling left.
Perfect. Falling.
Left.
Left. Rising. Right. If you wrote rising right, falling left, I'm not going to mark it wrong. But generally, guys, you read left to right, so answer left to right. But if you wrote it correctly, but you wrote rising first, it's fine. It's no worries. All right, so now I'm going to say x cubed plus 2x squared minus 8x equals 0. So what do we do? Take out the x, so I'm left with x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. What are the factors of negative 8 that give me a positive 2 when I add? X plus 4, x minus 2. Perfect. So I say x equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. So x equals 0, x equals negative 4, and x equals positive 2. How do we feel? Is this incredibly hard?
No.
Is it kind of annoying?
No, we already did it.
I know. We've done it a million times. It's good. You guys are getting better at it. That's what's important. Okay, I'm going to do rest of the odds because the evens are pretty much the same, so you guys can you can look at those. So let's do, can you read, say it again?
33.
Yeah, I'll do 29, 31, 33, 35. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you guys read 29 to me, please? P of x, h of x, whatever, doesn't matter.
Equals
Negative x cubed
plus x squared
plus 12x. All right. First thing we're going to do is the end behavior. So I'm going to circle that leading coefficient. The leading degree. What is that number? 3. It's odd. So I think odd and opposite. Good. Is it a negative odd or a positive odd? Negative. So a negative line is going to go this way. So guys, tell me what my end behavior is.
Up, left, down, right.
Okay, so you're going to rise, left, falling, right. Good. And now we factor. Negative x cubed plus x squared plus 12x equals 0. If I lead with a negative, what do I do with it? Take it out. We got to take it out. So what do all three of those have in common, letter-wise? X. So I'm going to take out a negative x because it's going to make my numbers, my factoring a lot easier. So that leaves me with positive x squared, negative x, and a negative 12. Agreed? Okay. So negative x. What are the factors of negative 12? They're going to multiply to give me negative 12, but add to give me negative 1. Negative 4, positive 3. Good. And then what do I do with each piece? Set it equal to 0. Awesome. Guys, if you have a negative x equals 0, what does that answer? What's the answer?
0.
It's just 0. Can you have a negative 0? No. Mathematically, you would say you would divide out the negative 1. What's 0 divided by negative 1? It's just 0. So if I have x minus 4 equals 0, so x equals positive 4, because when I move negative over, it becomes positive. And here, when I have positive 3, when I move it over, it becomes negative 3. I don't mean to skip steps. I'm just showing you guys that. Yes? Okay. 31. Read 31 to me, please.
P of x
Thank you, ma'am.
equals x to the 4 minus 3x cubed plus 2x cubed
Plus or minus?
plus.
Thank you. All right, and behaviors. We love when it's an even. Even means same. The arrows are going in the same direction. Guys, if it's positive, my leading coefficient is positive. What direction my arrow's going? Both up. Good. If it was negative x to the 4th, they'd both be going. Awesome. So our end behavior, you would say rising right and rising left. Please don't say both rising. Just tell me what's going on. Oh, I wrote them backwards, right? I told you guys not to do that. Is that major of a deal? No, but I would get into the habit. It's easier when you have both going the same way. But I'd like you to read left to right, so my bad. All right, so now we're going to say x to the 4th minus 3x cubed plus 2x squared equals 0. I'm glad this problem came up. What do they all have in common? X squared. Take out that x squared. You're left with x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. You all with me? All right, so I have x squared. Are there factors of positive 2 that will multiply to give me positive 2? But add to give me negative 3. Negative 2, negative 1. Good, because two negatives make a positive. So I'm going to say x squared equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. I know Evan did this yesterday because he asked me this question. At the beginning, guys, you can tell how many answers you should have. How many? Why? That's the degree, okay? So when I solve this, how do I get x by itself? I got to take the square root. Guys, what is the square root of 0? 0. But when you take the square root, what do you put in front of it? Plus or minus. Is there such thing as a positive and a negative 0? So in this case, you would just say x equals 0. So when Evan did it, he just got x equals 0. And then he solved the other ones, and he got x equals 2, and he got x equals 1. And he said, well, wait a second, I only have 3 answers. In reality, you have 4 answers. You just have 0 how many times? Twice. If it was like x squared equals 4, then you guys would be like, oh, plus or minus 2. But since it's 0, and there's no positive nor, it's neither positive nor negative, that's why it's kind of weird like that. But good. All right, 2 more. 33. Read 33 to me, please.
P of x equals x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 1.
All right, and can you read 35 to me, please?
P of x equals 2x cubed minus x squared minus 18x plus 1.
Plus 9?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's do these two, and then we're done. First thing we're doing is end behavior. So what's going on at the end of this graph? Odd, so
Opposite.
good.
It's positive.
And it's positive, so it's going to be an upward line like that. Awesome. So end behavior is what on the left?
Falling left.
Falling left and rising right. Perfect. Now, guys, I have x cubed plus x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0. Factoring. When I have 4 terms, the first thing I look for always is GCF. There's nothing they all have in common. How do you factor 4 terms? You group it. Good. When we group, remember, this came up yesterday, whatever sign is with that third term, this one right here in the middle, stays with it. Remember that. So when you look at that first set of parentheses, what do they have in common?
X.
How many?
2.
2 of them. So I can take out x squared, and I'm left with x plus 1, correct? I should be left with the same parenthesis the second time.
So it should be squared.
It's not negative x minus 1. That's not the same exact thing. But what can I take out of both negative x and a negative 1?
Negative.
A negative what?
1.
Good. Then I'd be left with x plus 1. Everybody see that? When you divide out a negative 1 here, a negative divided by a negative becomes a positive. Now you have a new greatest common factor. The first term is x squared times x plus 1. The second term is negative 1 times x plus 1. So what do they have in common? The x plus 1. You write that one time, guys. That's the new GCF, so you just took it out. You do not write it twice. It's the new greatest common factor. Then whatever is left over gets what? It gets combined. It gets its own parenthesis. Agreed? All right, now there's two ways you can solve this. You could factor this to be x plus 1, x minus 1. You guys see that difference of perfect squares? If you didn't see that, that's okay. Because when we get to this point, some of you will say, oh, I didn't even see that difference of perfect squares, which is okay. Because when we get to this point, what else can we do? Can we just solve this now? Can we set each piece equal to 0? Yeah. So I'm going to say x plus 1 equals 0. And I'm going to say x squared minus 1 equals 0. So if I solve this one, I get x equals negative 1, correct? Mm-hmm. So here I would say x squared equals 1. And then what do I have to do? Take the square root of both sides. When I put the house on, I get plus or minus. So there we got our plus or minus 1. I have 3 answers. X equals negative 1, x equals negative 1, x equals positive 1. When I go back to the beginning, what was the biggest exponent? 3. So we're good. Sound good? All right. Last one. Hold on, not yet. I want to do end behaviors first. End behavior.
3. Odd.
3, so it's odd, and then I think opposite. Is it positive or negative? So what's my end behavior?
Falling left,
Falling left, rising
rising
right. Okay, so 2x cubed minus x squared minus 18x plus 9 equals 0. GCF, yes or no?
No.
Nope. They don't have something that all four have in common. So now, like Borja said, we're going to group. Remember, that middle term, that third term, keeps the sign. What do we have in common between 2x cubed and x squared?
X squared.
So I'm going to take out the x squared. I'm going to be left with 2x minus what? 1. Good. Anything divided by itself is 1. So now in the second parenthesis, it leads with a negative, so take it out. What can I take out of negative 18 and a positive 9?
9.
Okay, let's take out a negative 9. And I'd be left with, if I divide this, I get 2x. And then if I divide this, I get minus 1. Agreed? Are my two parentheses now the same?
Yeah.
Yes. How many times do I write them?
Once.
One time. That's my new GCF. I write it one time and it's gone. And then what happens with my leftovers? They combine. They get their own parenthesis. What do you notice about x squared minus 9? It is the difference of perfect squares. That factors out into what? X plus 3, x minus 3. Some of you will do that way and you'll solve from there. Some of you will not see that, and that is okay. You can also write over here 2x minus 1 equals 0 and x squared minus 9 equals 0. You'll get the same exact answers. Watch. If I solve each piece, 2x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. Sorry, x minus 3 equals 0. Solve this. 2x equals 1, right? So x equals 1/2. Agreed? Okay, so here x equals negative 3, and here x equals positive 3. If I do it this way, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So 2x equals 1, divide by 2, x equals 1/2. And then here, I'm going to add 9. I get x squared equals 9. Then what do I do to both sides? Square root. So x equals plus or minus. The only reason I don't like doing it that way is because a lot of times you guys forget the plus or minus. So you just got to be careful. I think you guys will be okay with this. It's nice to hear. We sound a lot better in January than we did in August or September, which makes me happy because you guys have done this a lot. I know that, but practice, it helps you out a lot. So tonight, if you want to start your quiz review, you can. You do not have to. We're going to work on it tomorrow in class. But I'll upload this. Yes, sir. Yeah. After you get there, you can go x equals 3, x equals negative 3, so you can see it. Hang on one second.
Oh, just number 30.
Number 30? Sure. Let's look at it. Okay, so you guys look at 30. What's the end behavior for 30?
100.
I know. Do you see what 30 is? End behavior.
Rising left.
Ooh, good. Rising left, falling right. Good. So if I'm going to factor 30, I have negative 2x cubed minus x squared plus x equals 0. We lead with a what? What is that sign that we don't like? Negative. Take it out. What do they all have in common?
X.
An x. So let's take out a negative x. It's going to change the signs of everything behind it.
Oh, I got it now.
See that?
Yeah, you don't have to use quadratic.
But if you did, you can still get the same. You can still get the answer. So I have negative x, and then when I factor this, 2 times negative 1. So what are the factors of negative 2? That give me a negative 2 when I multiply, but a positive 1 when I add.
Plus 2 minus.
Okay, so x plus 2, x minus 1. And since our a term here is not 1, remember this? So I have negative x. What happens with 2 divided by 2? Just becomes 1, so x plus 1. Does negative 1 divide by 2 nice and pretty? So this just becomes our coefficient. So 2x minus 1, and then set equal to 0. So you got x equals 0, x equals negative 1, and x equals positive 1/2. See that, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We good? All right, good job.